Spring 1990, Kansai Airport's man-made island is nearly finished. Construction firms prepare for the monumental task of building the passenger terminal. But in March, engineers make an alarming discovery, which threatens to destroy the project. Kansai Airport is sinking into the sea. Airport officials had expected the island to settle some 19 feet into the soft seabed. But by March 1990, it had sunk 27 feet and was still sinking over 2 inches every month. No one knew when or if the sinking would stop.
No one knows exactly what to do, because it's quite different from our past experience. It's big size and a very heavy load. These two factors combined give rise to the effect of waking up the sleeping lion.
The revelation stunned Osaka and the nation. The international press dubbed Kansai Japan's sinking airport. Some compared it to history's most notorious engineering blunder, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. After 20 years of planning, 3 years of construction, and billions of dollars, it appeared that Kansai Airport might never be built. What had seemed genius now appeared to be merely hubris. As public outrage grew, the president of Kansai Airport resigned. Engineers scrambled to find a solution, if there was one.
We cannot stop the compression of this type of soil, because we can cope with the soil with various new techniques down to 50 or 60 meter depth. But now the soil in the question is 200 meters deep. So we cannot apply any sort of artificial technique to them.
To keep the airport above sea level, workers piled an extra 11.5 feet of soil atop the island at a cost of $150 million. They decided to pave the runway with asphalt because asphalt would absorb earth movements better than concrete. Yet their greatest problem remained unsolved. It was time to construct Kansai International's passenger terminal. But how could they build it on a sinking island? While engineers debated, the terminal's architects perfected its design. Noriaki Okabe had spent 25 years in Europe working with world-renowned Italian architect Renzo Piano. Together, they had created some of the world's most remarkable buildings, including the famed Pompidou Center in Paris. But at Kansai, they faced the challenge of their careers. The Kansai terminal had to be small enough to fit on a man-made island, yet big enough to house all the complex functions of a modern international airport. High enough to inspire passengers with its beauty, yet low enough to allow air traffic controllers an unrestricted view of every airplane on the tarmac. It seemed an architectural paradox.
Architects usually get stimulated by looking at the site before the work starts. This project was unique because there was no site yet. There was no ground.
Seeking new sources of inspiration, the architects turned to the structures of nature. Nature's geometries solved their most difficult problem: how to make the terminal both high and low. Answer: the toroid, the remarkably versatile shape of magnetic fields, convection currents, bicycle tires, donuts, and fruits. In its architect's eyes, the enormous Kansai terminal is only the small visible portion of an immense toroid over 20 miles in diameter, circling through the Earth. The toroid shape allows the building's center to soar 85 feet high, while its wings taper to 20 feet, inspiring visitors, giving the control tower a clear view of aircraft, and making architectural history.
It is the most pervasive form in the natural world, the toroid. And so far as I know, this was the first time it had been used, certainly the first time it had been used in a big structure. Since Kansai was designed, the toroid has become a very fashionable form, particularly architects working with British engineers who've mastered how to use this form. But it was innovatory at its time.
On September 4th, 1994, Kansai International Airport finally opened for business. The Emperor's son, Crown Prince Naruhito, and his wife, Princess Misako, attended the opening ceremonies. 11,000 police stood guard in case radicals attacked. As they celebrated, the airport's proud builders could not know that nature's fury would soon assault their masterpiece. Dawn, January 17th, 1995. Kansai International Airport has been open 15 months. As this day begins, it will be severely tested. At 5:46 a.m. on January 17th, a devastating 7.2 earthquake rocks the Kansai region. The massive temblor is the deadliest quake to strike Japan since the Great Tokyo earthquake of 1923.
I was still in bed because it was quite early in the morning. It was a very huge, upthrusting movement. Dishes jumped out of the cupboard in my house. I had never experienced an earthquake that big before.
Hardest hit is the city of Kobe. The city's wharf rises 10 feet. Cranes topple, and a harbor breakwater sinks. Rail lines and major highways buckle. The quake kills more than 5,000 people and injures over 25,000. More than 300,000 people lose their homes. Kansai International Airport is only 18 miles from the epicenter.
When the earthquake hit, the first thing I thought about was my family. Then I thought about the Kansai airport. Maybe the glass has broken.
Fearing the worst, officials rush to the airport. Outside the terminal, they find a cracked sidewalk and few other signs of damage.
I raced to the airport in my car and arrived before 7 o'clock. When I rushed into this control room, all the machines were operating properly.
The airport had survived one of nature's deadliest assaults, or had it. With so much devastation nearby, it seemed too good to be true.
When I came to Kansai Airport, we could see Kobe was burning. Although you couldn't see anything wrong, I had great anxiety about the airport's invisible parts.
The inspections confirmed that the airport's anti-earthquake measures had worked. Engineers had used a mixture of large rocks to build the airport island. When the earthquake hit, this coarser landfill absorbed the shaking. Had the fill rocks been smaller, the island soil might have liquefied. Airport buildings would have collapsed, as so many other structures did. Instead, the delicate-looking passenger terminal proved as tough as its architects had hoped, thanks to its ingenious design.
For example, at this bridge, that side of the building is fixed, and this side has a sliding system to absorb the shock. At the time of the Kobe earthquake, this point moved almost 4 inches.
Even the terminal's massive glass walls were intact.
It was important not to transmit the movement of the roof in an earthquake to the glass wall below. We designed a system which absorbed all movements between the two structures by using sliding or rotating joints. During the Kobe earthquake, this system worked so well that not a single pane of glass was broken.
Kansai International remained open throughout the crisis, serving as a staging area for arriving rescue teams and supplies.
The building was, in fact, the building closest to the epicenter of the earthquake that destroyed Kobe. That doesn't mean to say it was hardest hit, because the buildings in Kobe were equally hit hard. But because it had been designed to cope with all these things, it rode it out without any damage at all.
Surviving the Kobe quake was a triumph for Kansai's beleaguered engineers. The airport had passed a significant test of its engineering and design. 3 years later, it would face another as nature struck again.